All right, my name's Zaya, and I'll be starting off for our group. This is my collage for Design Challenge 1. I have 6 images up on the screen. In the top left, we have a picture of a cockpit. Of course, those are the seats that the pilots would sit on. And the significance of those is that's where they have to sit the whole flight, and that's kind of their office. To the right of that, we have stadium seating. So, for example, for a concert, that's what this setup is for. This is how it would be formatted to buy your tickets, and the prices vary from different seats. As you get closer to the stage, the seats get more expensive. Then in the bottom left corner, we have the baby and the car seat. Uh, Car seats are very important for kids, especially toddlers, babies. They have to be approved and be rated to be safe. Um, and they provide safety for a smaller child, so a baby or a toddler, if there was an accident. It's safer for them to be in the chair than in the seat, of course. Um, and then to the right of that is a quote, and the quote reads, "Interior design is making the best possible use of the available space," which I found interesting because um, when you're thinking about seats, especially, using the space efficiently is very important. And I thought that applied to seating and chairs and stuff like that. To the right of that is a coffee shop. That's a very social, kind of calm seating area where people go to do work or go to maybe study, or meet with somebody like for an interview or a business meeting or something. And then the last photo in the bottom right to the right of the coffee shop is um, like 2 lawn chairs set up in somebody's backyard, which I found interesting with the very green layout. It's kind of like a secluded seating area, which I wouldn't mind having in my backyard. I feel like it's kind of a good getaway from the rest of the house. So yeah, that's my collage, and those are the different seats and chairs. And then we'll move on to my matrix. So this is my matrix. At the bottom are all the seats that I walked around and took pictures of. As you can tell, I took pictures of them at night because it's not hot. Um, so they're all labeled. So number one, we have swing. Number two, we have a lawn chair. Number three, indoor seating in a dorm building. Number four, the metal picnic table, which was under like a gazebo type thing. Number five, I saw a bike seat and thought that would be interesting to talk about. And number six, we have the outdoor table and chairs. Um, so we'll start off with the swing. The swing seating, I rated it 2 just because it's thin and not really like a seat, but you sit on it. So I guess it's considered a seat. Number two, or environmental impact, I gave it a 6. Comfort, number two, or I gave it a 2. We all know why they're not comfortable at all. Cost 5. I'm sure it's not too expensive, but it may be right in the middle, depending on the swing. Social impact, I gave a 6 just because swings are usually around social events. Function 8. It works, makes people have fun, and it's great for what it's used for. Aesthetic 2. It's not very appealing and it's dusty. The chain is a little rusted. Then we go to lawn chair. Seating 4. It's big enough space to kind of be considered a seat and actually use it as a seat. Environmental impact 5. It was made out of like wood. I don't know if it was real wood or fake wood, but some type of wood. Comfort 3. It's really hard, and I feel you get blisters because the wood is kind of, you know, dissolved. Um, Comfort, cost, give it an 8 because It's cheap. It's not expensive for what it is. Sustainability, 7. It sustains the heat and weather. Social impact, 7. It was in like a seating area with a bunch of other lawn chairs. So I thought that was cool. Um, function, 7 as well. It gets the job done with no complaints. And aesthetic, 5. It's kind of dusty and broken up a little bit, but again, it still gets the job done. Move over to indoor seating. 8. It's a nice seating area, nice material. Environmental impact, 5. I don't really know what the material is. I think it's like a faux leather maybe, and then some are fabric. Comfort, I gave a 9. I've sat on those chairs before. They're really comfortable. You could fall asleep sitting in them. Cost, 5. They're kind of on the more expensive side. Sustainability, 9. None of them have rips, tears, holes, or anything. And they've been there for a while. Social impact, 8. It's in a very social space. There's like a TV and tables and stuff. 8 for function. They get the job done greatly. They're comfortable. I kind of apply everything before function into the function score. And then 7 for aesthetics because the design isn't the nicest, but they're nice. Metal picnic table. We got an 8 for seating because it could seat a lot of people and it's one straight seat, makes it efficient. 6 for environmental impact just because it's made out of metal. 2 for cost because it's more on the more expensive side for seating. Or 2 for comfort, sorry, because it's metal. 4 because it's a little expensive. Sustainability, 8 because metal, nothing really happens to it. They weren't rusted or anything. Social impact, I gave this a 8 as well. Sorry, a 6 because you just kind of look at each other, but it's good for a big group of people. 7 for function. It gets the job done greatly, especially for big events, a lot of people. And 2 for aesthetic because it's just kind of metal slabs. We move over to the second to last one, bike seat. Seating, it seats 1 and it's like maybe 7 inches long and very thin. It could hurt for some people. Environmental impact, 3. Because it comes with the whole bike, so there's a lot of parts that go to it. Comfort, 2. Again, it could be very uncomfortable depending on the person. I personally think it's very uncomfortable. 7 for cost because the seat itself isn't too expensive. 6 for sustainability. I mean, it stays outside and it's not ripped or anything. Social impact, 2. There's nothing really social about a bike. It just gets you from point A to point B. Function, A, gets the job done, lets you sit while you bike. Aesthetics, 1. It's just like a log of leather or fake leather. And now, last but not least, we have the outdoor tables and chairs seating. 4. 4 felt like a good number, and there were 4 seats, so it kind of worked. Environmental impact, they're made out of like plastic and metal, so 3. Comfort, 3. They kind of hurt a little bit. Cost, 4. If you're looking at the whole set, it's a little pricey. Sustainability, 6. They sit out all day and they kind of hold up. They lose a little color. Social impact, 7. It's good for, a group or your friends, or you could all eat outside or something. Function, 7. It's again gets the job done greatly. No, not really any complaints about its function. Aesthetic, 5. The green with the table and the gray doesn't really match, and then the chairs are a little awkward. But yeah, that's my matrix, and I'll pass it over to the next person of my group.
Oh, sorry guys.
So my name is Dawson. This is my collage. I was trying to find kind of most of the chairs, like the bottom left and top right, something kind of different, abstract, just like interesting seating. So you can see in the bottom left, they're using the concrete slabs as seating as well, but then they have chairs kind of built in attached to it just for a certain like amount of people can sit on there, and they actually have a back to the chairs. In the top right, I just thought they were interesting because you typically see a chair where it's just got arms and back and flat, and it's flat and just like a normal chair. So they're using the round shape to add seating. Probably looks like it's built into a wall. So I just thought that was a cool design. And then in the middle, those are more like modern design chairs. You'd probably put that at like a kitchen table if it's kind of high up, an island or something like that. And they look pretty comfortable just for bar seating and stuff like that. And then the top left is kind of like a fancier chair. Maybe it's a lot more comfortable, but it's your pretty typical chair with the arms and the big back so you can rest. And then the bottom right chair is maybe something you find at like a waiting office at an apartment complex or something like that, somewhere nice, just interesting to have design. So I liked it. And I have a couple quotes in there. Pretty sure I took most of them from the lectures or the videos in the book. But the 7 ways of seeing: glance, look, explore, experience, see, perceive, to have an idea. I just thought those were kind of like a perfect way. You can see most of these seatings they all use different types of these ways of seeing, of how they used the concrete blocks. They would kind of glance, think, oh, okay, we could use that as a seating, then put something on top of it, different types of seating. The great designers ask why, how, what. I just like that quote because why would you not? Those are like perfect things to think about when doing a design. And the last quote from Jonathan Ive is: the design process is about designing and prototyping and making. When you separate those, I think the final result suffers. So that just basically kind of means if you're not doing all 3 of those together, you're not going to get the same results. So with those 3 things combined, your results are most likely to be the best because you're using all different types of views and stuff like that. So that is my collage. And for my design matrix, I went around just a couple different parks, kind of public areas, to try to find different seating. Most of them are all pretty typical in the neighborhoods around me, so they're all alike. But my first one is a bus bench, just because those are pretty common. But for the comfortability, I gave it a 6 because it does have a partial back if you can lean back far enough to it. Might be kind of hot though because the sun heats them up, but they're decently comfortable. The cost, I don't know, I put like a 5 because I figure it's all just the same material. Might be a little bit more expensive than that, but the environmental impact, I put 5 because it's pretty sustainable. It's just not going to lose anything, or nothing's going to really affect the environment. Safety, put a 6 because it has, I mean, if you fall off this thing, you're not sitting right. So, and it's got like little side rails and stuff like that, so you can hold on to. The sustainability, like I said, it's the only thing that's going to take is like weathering, if that. Social impact 7. A lot of people gather around to wait for the bus, so there could be people gathering around the bus talking. Function, I gave it a 10 because it's literally there for people to wait for the bus, so I think it works pretty well. For aesthetics, though, I don't like them. I think they're just pretty boring. You could do something a little fancier, add more shade or a better top to it or something like that. So that's a bus bench. The next one is a park swing. Comfortability, I guess I'm a little bit nicer. I gave it a 4 because usually when you're swinging, you don't really feel it. But cost, it's just pretty much 3 metal bars and some chain and stuff like that. So I give it a 3. The environmental impacts, give it a 2. I don't really know how it's not going to poorly impact the environment, anything like that. Safety, obviously, is pretty low too. Kids probably fall off these things, break their arms all the time, because all you're really doing is you have the 2 metal chains to hold on to. So For sustainability. For the rubber seats could probably get pretty weathered, and I don't know about the chains, but so that's why I give it sustainability of 2, or safety, or yes, sustainability of 4. Social impact, I give it a 4. I guess you could gather around if there's 2 kids on the swing and the parents are there swinging them. Parents could gather around, people could gather around and talk and stuff like that. For function, give it a 5, because it has pretty much one function, and that's just swinging. I guess you could sit on it, but then aesthetics 3, I think they're pretty ugly. There's nothing really much to them. They're kind of boring and stuff like that. So, next is the wooden bench. I gave it a comfortability of 7, just because you do have armrests and it does have a back, and the seat is kind of decently curved to fit your legs. So it's not too bad to sit on, but could be a little bit better. Costs, I gave it a 2. I don't think it'd be that expensive. It's literally just a couple pieces of wood, maybe a little bit more expensive because it's got some fancy design on it and in the metal and stuff like that. But environmental impact, I gave it a 3, just because nothing's really gonna come off of it and impact the environment in a poor way. Safety, gave it a 7. It's pretty straightforward, typical chair. Sustainability, gave it a 3 because it might take some weathering. As you can see, it's been pretty weathered from sun, wind, stuff like that. So you might have to go back and apply a coat of something to keep it intact and keep it nice. The social impact, I gave it a 4, just because of the location, but you can only seat about 3 people if you're really squeezing them in there, and it's not really a nice spot to gather around. Function, I gave it a 7 because it's pretty straightforward. It's a good, nice chair to sit on. You can fit 2 people. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Aesthetics, I give it a 6. It's pretty decent looking if it was kept up to a nice, kept like taken care of, if it was re-oiled and stuff like that, so it did look nice, but as you can see, it's weathered. Next, for 4, the long picnic tables. Comfortability 5, because I guess you could lean forward, and I mean they're used for like eating and stuff like that, but I usually like a chair with a back to it so I can lean back as well. So that's why I gave it a comfortability of, or sorry, 5. The costs, I gave it a 4. I figure they're not that much. They're all over the place. Literally every park you go to, there's hundreds of these things. So figure they can't be that expensive if they're used them all around. Environmental impact, I gave it a 6, just because they don't really weather that much, and they're pretty, like I said, pretty common. So I don't think it will impact environment poorly. Safety, gave it an 8. Just because if you're sitting on them, you're most likely leaning forward and stuff like that. You're using them to eat. So sustainability 7. Obviously, they wouldn't be using them everywhere if they weren't very sustainable. They don't weather and stuff like that. I mean, maybe the rubber does, but after a long time. Social impact, to give it a 9, because layout as well, there's 4 of them. So obviously it's going to be a lot of people using them. People are going to be gathered around, eating, family events, stuff like that. So pretty high social impact. Function, 9 as well, because they're there for what they're supposed to be used for, picnics and stuff like that. Yeah. Aesthetics 5, they're pretty bland. Just there's nothing. I mean, if you had different colors or different patterns or stuff like that, they might be nicer, but they're just pretty straightforward. And for the last one, kind of hard to see, but they're metal benches. For comfortability, I give a 6 because they do have the back. Like I said, that's the kind of chair I'd sit on, is something with the back. They don't have like the armrests or handrails or anything like that, so that's kind of sucks. But costs, give a 4 because these things are all around, like I said, so they can't be too expensive. They use them all the time. Environmental impact 3. I don't think it's gonna really pretty much like everything else. It's not really going to affect anything. Safety 9 because they got they're in like a secluded area, and yeah, it's got a back and everything like that. Nothing really catch your feet on either. Sustainability 7, they're probably pretty easy to take care of, clean up and stuff like that. Social impact 7. This area, I gave it a 7 because they're in a gathering spot to like look at. So the way they have them laid out with the 3 kind of facing toward each other, you could have people sitting there and talking to each other. Function 8, they're there exactly what they're supposed to be used for. There's a little like statue or something like that to the left. So if you were to sit there and read what the statue was about or look at it, then they're a pretty good function because it's right there next to it. And for aesthetics, I give it a 4 because they're not very good looking. I don't know. They seem like 3 different colors, so I don't know why they have it like that. They're just pretty bland and boring. But yeah, those are my 5 seatings, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Mansi. This is my college. Uh, in the bottom left, this is a very good sitting place, and people can comfortable when they sit. And then in the center, this is a good people sit here with their family and friends, and then bottom right. Uh, there is one swing and one chair. When some children with their play with swing, and what and in the right side there is a two chairs that people is can easily uh, work with there. And in the left side there is some colorful chair. People easily easily come sit there and work in computer. There is a classroom in the center. There is a classroom, and I think so there is a classroom sitting area place. And when people is communicate with their assignment and sit here. This this appear my matrix. This is my matrix challenge. My first chair is white chair. This is not comfortable properly because all people not sit here, and so I give 2.2. And but I think this is metal. This is metal, and I gave a 7 for safety. And then my second chair is garden chair. This is a very comfortable, and I gave a 7. But uh, it is a mm, wooden wooden. So I gave environmental impact 8. And then my park bench I gave. This is a very this is a metal form, but this is where this is a discomfort is not good because when people sit here they feel not comfortable. So I gave it 4 points. And then big launcher, this I gave 10 points for comfort. because when people sit here, so they feel comfortable and their cost is very high. So I give this is expensive, but is a very good. So I gave 8 point. And sus- sustainability, I gave 8 points. And then bar chair. Uh, this is not. This is a very. This is also comfortable when people sit here, and this course I gave 8 points. And I, environmental impact, I gave 7 points, but a function is not good, so I gave one. And then wooden chair, this is not comfortable, so I gave 3 points, because people not sit properly in wooden chair, and their cost is very good, so I gave 7. And then
All right, what's going on, everybody? My name is Reid Balog. As you can see here, I basically just chose a couple images of some basic general designs. What I really want to show you here is I'm going to run through these definitions and these quotes that I've pulled from the reading. This first one here is design is a plan of action needed to address a specific problem or need. This next one here is going to be design is a purpose and significance. And then this next quote here from Thomas Friedman is education must be about how you think, create, and integrate. And I think this is really important when designing really anything. You have to be incredibly creative to put the skills down to create something unique, sustainable for the environment that it's in, and something that is going to be functional, whatever that may be. And here's some key methods that some great designers have used. They use a heightened awareness of the world around them. They like to engage themselves in challenging problems. They like to understand that, or they understand that design is an iterative process of intellectual and creative discovery. They collaborate with dedicated individuals who like their work, and they develop new ways of perceiving and thinking. So these are all the methods that you have to consider when designing. All right, and here for the design matrix, we have, as you can see, 7 different items here. First, we've got the gray couch, which you can see in the top left, the white table and chair following it to the right. Third, we have the orange bench. We've got the blue chairs as well. I'm sorry. Yep, the blue chairs. I apologize. I mislabeled those. Those are supposed to be last. We've got the blue chairs, the gray sunbathing lounge, the purple box, as well as the other gray lounge chair. Now, all of these pictures and photos were taken at the top of the rise, or better known as the Carmen now. Especially when considering the social impact and the function and the aesthetics, we'll have to consider the collegiate environment and atmosphere that it's put in place in. So for the gray couch, I chopped it down to be a comfort of 9. Well, obviously, I mean, it's a couch. It's got nice cushions. It's stable. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to be, scary sitting on it or anything. It's gonna do its job, and it's comfortable. Its cost, since it is a couch, I assume it's going to be a little more expensive than some of the other items around here. The environmental impact would be about 5, I'd say, because most of the material on there you could reuse. The metal could be repurposed, the fabric could be repurposed. In terms of safety, obviously it's a couch. It's not going anywhere. It's stable. So I got a safety rating of 8. Sustainability 7. Again, it's obviously been through some wear and tear. It's gonna hold up. Its function is 9. All of these are rated pretty high, considering that they're all seating for social gatherings. They're, it's very functional for what it's intended for. And the aesthetic is, I threw it at a 7. It is just a great couch, but it is nice to have comfortable seating, and especially with a rooftop pool. Second here, we've got the white table and chair. This I rated a comfort of 3, only because these chairs are basically just metal and not very comfortable at all. They have no cushion. They do have a back, which is nice, but other than that, if your legs can't reach the little footholds at the bottom of the chairs, and your legs are going to be dangling. Environmental impact, because it is metal and metal can always be repurposed, gave it a 5. The safety rating is an 8. Again, it's stable. You're not going to go anywhere. Even if you do fall, it's a couple feet. Nothing really is going to happen. Sustainability, I rated a 6. The social impact, again, a 6. It's got a high social impact rating, as it is in the collegiate atmosphere rooftop pool. Function 9, again, people are going to be eating, sitting there, conversating, having a good time. And then the aesthetics are 5. It does look nice where it is, though, compared to some of the other seating arrangements that are available. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as the others. Next, we have this orange bench. We've got a comfort of 5. While it does have the comfort at the top, or the little cushion at the top, it does not have a back for you to rest on, which is, if you're sitting there for a while, it's going to be incredibly uncomfortable. Your back's going to start to hurt. So I figured the cost would probably be a little lower. It's just some metal in that cushion, so doesn't seem to be too expensive. The environmental impact, not too much, as again, it is just metal and some fabric. The safety rating, 8. Once again, very stable. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get hurt. Sustainability rated at a 7. The social impact rated at a 7 again. It's very functional for its social events and stuff. And again, it is just very functional for its intended purpose, which is seating. And its aesthetics are 7. I do like the orange on top of it. It does look nice, and it fits where it is. Next here, we have the blue chairs. I gave them a comfort rating of 6, as they are a little raised, and it doesn't look like they have any footstools. The cost, I put it about 8, as they are a little bit of a different design than most of these chairs, so it might be a little more expensive to. I'm sorry, I apologize, I misread that. Blue chairs cost of 5. Those are not going to be as expensive. I apologize about that. The environmental impact, we are looking at about 3, as again, it's just some metal and some fabric. We're really not looking at too much here. Safety, we're looking at 8. Stable. It's got a square base, so it's not going to be riding around, not on any wheels or anything. Sustainability rated at a 6. Social impact, a 6. Got a nice table, nice seating arrangements. Looks about maybe 8 people there, chilling. You can put a couple other chairs if you'd like to. Its function is 9. Again, its intended purpose is to sit, and you can do so. And its aesthetics are 8. I think they do look quite pleasing. Next, we've got the gray sunbathing chair. Now, this is going to be a 10. I mean, it's got the headrest. You can lay down vertically. You can take a nap. You can face down nap. You can upright nap. You can do whatever you want on this chair. Its cost, I assume it's going to be a little more expensive, as it is a sunbathing. It's got the raised headrest, I should say, and it's got the extended countertop for drinks and other things like that. The environmental impact, we're looking at a 4, rated at 8 as safety, 7 in sustainability. The social impact, rated at a 6, as it's very functional. Again, 9 functional. The aesthetics at an 8. This purple box, its comfort is 3, as it's used as more of a footstool, though you could be using it as you could use it as a seat if you run out of room. Its cost, it looked to be just like a plastic box, so probably 5. Environmental impact of 5. The safety, again, is a 5. They do have pointed edges, so I mean, you could hurt yourself, but again, it's pretty close to the ground. Sustainability a 3, because it's made out of plastic. Social impact 7. Its function is a 3, again, because it's not intended as a chair, but could be used for. And the aesthetic is a 9, because it does look good. And then finally, we have the gray lounge chair with a comfort rating of 7, as you could just chill out, sunbathe, get a tan, relax by the pool. The cost is a 5. Environmental impact of 6. Safety rating an 8, as you're just laying down very close to the ground. Sustainability, a 7. A social impact, 7, as you can get many people hanging out on those chairs. Function, 9, and the aesthetic is 10 because it looks very, very good.
All right, my name is Kylie. This is my collage that I made. I have a couple quotes in there. I have a couch up in the upper right. You know, family would sit there and hang out. I have just a basic park bench. And then I have this bench down here that's in the woods that looks pretty cool. I have the design process down here at the bottom. And then I have a desk chair, which is actually pretty similar to my own desk chair. I think it's pretty comfortable. And then my 2 quotes up here are, the process of design starts with exploration, but ends with refinement. The best designers carefully move from one to the other, making sure they spend enough time exploring before locking themselves into a design approach. And that is by Jared Spool. And then my other quote over here is, design is the process of expending considerable time, thought, and energy into making something that looks and feels effortless. And that is by Christopher Anton. And then my design matrix here, I went to a park and I just took some pictures of just different seating areas in the park. It's a brand new park that they just built by my house. So first I have just a plain old park bench and table. And for that, I gave it a comfortability score of a 4, just because if anybody's ever sat in one of those, they know it's not comfortable. Guys probably don't experience this because they wear longer shorts than girls, but when you sit there, and you're a girl and you have shorter shorts, you will get the imprint of the table on your thighs. Not comfortable. And then the cost I have as an 8, just because they're everywhere. Obviously, they're not very expensive. If they were, they wouldn't be everywhere. You see them at every park that you go to. And then environmental impact I have as a 5. I mean, it's there. They can be moved if they need to be. They're not really impacting the environment in any way. A safety, I gave it an 8. Just because it doesn't have a back. If you lean back, I don't know, you might fall off of it. Kids sit on them a lot. I don't know. Kids are kids. For sustainability, a 4, just because it's made out of rubber, which and metal. I mean, metal is durable. The rubber, I don't know, sometimes it peels off of the metal. And then social impact, I gave it an 8. People sit here, they'll eat lunch, they'll have picnics, family gatherings, a lot happen there in places like this. Function, a 9. I don't know, you sit on it. It's serves its purpose. And then aesthetics is a 4. I don't know, they're not really great to look at. They're not pretty or anything. And then I have this splash pad seating, which I rated comfortability as a 6, just because it's a smooth surface. It is concrete though, so it is still going to be uncomfortable, and it doesn't have a back. And then cost, I gave it a 4. I couldn't imagine that it would cost that much more to add those little benches when the whole splash pad the bottom's already concrete anyway. Environmental impact, an 8. I can't imagine they would impact the environment that much more than the entire concrete bottom that they already put there. Safety, I gave it a 7 just because it is in a wet area, so you could easily slip. But other than that, you sit on it. If you fall off, you weren't sitting right. Sustainability, I gave it a 7. It's concrete. You can't really break concrete. Social impact, I gave it a 4. I mean, parents sit there and read while their kids play, so the kids are they're being social. Parents that are sitting on the seats, not so much. Function is a 7, like you sit on it. And the parents, they watch their kids there, they kind of hang out and they sit. And then aesthetics, I gave it a 9 just because they do, like, it fits in with the splash pad. It has it's round around the splash pad. It doesn't look bad. And then I have these swings here, the yellow swings. I gave them a comfortability of a 7 just because I personally like to move a little bit while I'm sitting. So being on a swing is nice. You can move back and forth, you can sway. They don't have a back, which is a little unfortunate. Cost, I gave them an 8. Swings aren't very expensive to make. I mean, they are metal, but it's not very much metal. And then environmental impact, I gave it a 7. There's a whole park there, so adding these swings probably didn't impact the environment much more than adding the entire park did. So safety, I gave them a 5 because I would have never done this, but I went with my boyfriend and he was talking about how him and his friends sit there and try and kick each other. So I can only imagine what little kids would do on these things. Sustainability, I gave them a 5 just because I do think that if you're messing around on them enough, you could break that little chain that is attached to the bottom, which I think is there, so you can't swing into each other. Social impact is a 9. They're in a circle. There's another blue bench kind of right there that you could sit on. It's not really intended as a seat, but you could sit there and you could all sit there and talk. And then for function, I gave it an 8. I mean, you sit on it, it moves back and forth. It does its purpose. You can talk and whatever while you're sitting there. And then aesthetics, I gave it an 8 just because it does look kind of cool. And then this one I actually thought was really cool, this charging bench over here. I give it a comfortability of a 5 just because it doesn't have a back and it is made out of metal. And then the cost, I gave it a 3 because it does have a solar panel in it, so I know that probably was not cheap to do. Environmental impact, I gave it an 8 just because it is made out of basically entirely metal. And then safety, I gave it a 9. It's pretty wide. You're probably not going to fall off of it. And even if you do, you're not going to fall very far. Social impact, I gave it a 5 because you could probably only fit like 2 people on there. You're not really going to gather around there or anything. You're just going to sit there and plug your laptop in or your phone or whatever you need to charge. And then function, I gave it a 10 because it's a seat and you can charge things on it. It's more than just a seat. And then aesthetics, I gave it a 5 just because it doesn't really look that great. And as you can see, it's dirty and whatever. So that's why I got 5. And then I just have this average park bench down here in the lower left. And that I give it a comfortability of a 6. It has a back, but it is metal. It's going to be another one of those things that leaves the imprints in your thighs that just aren't comfortable. For cost, I gave it a 7. They can't cost very much at all. They are made out of metal, so it probably is a little bit more expensive than like plastic. But park benches are everywhere. They don't cost very much to make. Environmental impact, I gave it a 7. They're everywhere, so they obviously don't have very much impact on the environment. Safety, I gave it a 10. It has a back, it has armrests. It kind of dips down where you sit in it, so you're in there pretty good if you fall off. I don't see how you could fall off, but you're only gonna fall about a foot. For sustainability, I gave it an 8. It's metal. Metal is hard to mess up. Social impact, I gave it a 7. It was next to another bench, so a couple of people could sit there and talk and whatever. So function, I gave it a 9. It's a good place to sit. And then I gave it a 5 for aesthetics just because there's nothing special about it, just a regular old park bench. And then these stools, this blue table with the stools, I gave that a comfortability of a 7. It's wood, so it's not quite as hard as metal things. It doesn't have a back though, so that's unfortunate. The cost is a 7. I mean, it's wood. It probably isn't going to cost that much to make. The environmental impact, I gave it an 8. It's probably, I mean, it can be moved. It's not going to impact the environment that it's in very much. If it does, you can move it. Safety, I gave it an 8. There aren't armrests or a back, so it could be easier to fall off of. Social impact, I gave it a 7. 3-4 people could sit here and have a conversation and eat. Function, I gave it a 9. It is nice because there's a table there, so you could sit and do something on the table. Oh, I'm sorry, function, I gave it a 10. Like I said, you can sit and do something on the table. Aesthetics, I gave it a 7. It's a nice color. It looks good. It looks a lot better than a park bench, that's for sure. And then my last one here was this amphitheater that they're actually still building. So right now you just kind of sit in the grass. I think they are working on seating though. Comfortability, I gave it a 6. I mean, sitting on the ground isn't that great. Cost, I gave it a 5 just because building that place where whoever's performing would be was probably a little pricey. Environmental impact, I mean, you sit on the ground, so you're not really impacting much. Safety, I gave it a 10. You're on the ground, you can't fall. Well, I guess you could trip or something, but you're sitting on the ground, you can't really mess it up. Sustainability, I gave it a 7. I mean, you sit on the ground and that can't really be taken away. I don't know if the grass gets messed up. That kind of sucks. When it rains, it'll be wet, so you can't really sit there. And they are currently building seats, so it's obviously messed up right now. Social impact, I gave it a 10 because this is where large groups of people would gather to watch somebody perform. Function, I gave it a 10. I mean, sitting on the ground works, right? And then aesthetics, I gave it a 10 because I think the amphitheater part of it looks pretty cool. Yeah, that's what we've got. How do I stop the recording? Does anybody know?
Should be up at the top where you clicked meeting, like put your mouse way at the top. Put your mouse way at the top.
Stop recording.